What's going on, guys, and welcome back to Footy with an Edge. We're back again with another episode of the Stat Patters podcast. I'm Andy. This is Rishi. We're brothers. And today we're here to talk about three things that will cost Man United a Champions League spot. Three things that we're worried about, and perhaps and hopefully we can fix so that we actually get Champions League football, that glorious anthem for all of next season. Rishi, United are unbeaten in 5. Undoubtedly, the performances are improving. The team is feeling better. The fans are feeling better. How are you feeling?
Yes, Andy. So I'm feeling fantastic. I think James Ducker came out with an article recently saying that the players now believe that Champions League qualification is within reach. And as the great men have said, first you must believe, then you can achieve. So I'm happy. I'm happy with where we are at. I'm happy with the mentality we're showing. But there are a few warning signs that we can't ignore.
The three things that we have in mind that we want to bring up, they are warning signs, but it's not all doom and gloom, guys. It's just a reality check for a team on the rise. So we have to talk about it, and we're here to discuss it in depth for you guys.
Let's quickly talk about the run of form we've had so far. We've managed to beat Sunderland, who, like some other teams, are having difficulty in beating, just as Chelsea and Arsenal, right? Uh, then we beat Liverpool at Anfield. We've beaten Brighton, our bogey team, and we drew against Forest, like they did the double against us last year. And we also managed to draw against Spurs, who beat us like 4 times last year, right? And both of those were away games, right? So we've been in a decent run of form.
Yeah, I think what people need to realize is we just because we won 3 games in a row and we wanted that guy to get his haircut doesn't mean that we have some divine right to go from 15th to a title race, right? Because had we won 5 games in a row, let's be real, everybody would be talking about our title race. That would be what the media would be talking about. And so the thing that's hurting people is that we have looked better in so many games, especially the last 2 that we've drawn. But we've still managed to drop points, whether it's 5 minutes of madness, according to Ruben Amorim, or it's because the physicality is affecting us. We need to realize something, that last year, those same 2 games, instead of being 1-0 up and then conceding 2 goals and then coming back to win it, it would have been the other way around. We would have been 1-0 down, we would have equalized, and then we would have lost the game by conceding 2 more goals. So I feel like on the way to becoming the dominant team that we want to be, these are the steps that you have to take, because we will have learned, both as fans and as a team, more from those 2 draws than we would have had we just scraped through like Liverpool was scraping through in the first 5 games of the season, right? So I think these are some trying things that we need to go through to get to where we want to be.
Andy, there's this very interesting discovery that has happened in the recent few days. If you count only the first half of the game, I've got this table to share with you guys. So if you can just pull it up. Yeah.
It's on
If
screen.
you count just the first half of the games, United are second in the table. We would have had 22 points, right? We've scored 11 and conceded only 4. I think it's a better record than even City, for that matter. They've conceded 5 goals. So we are right up there if you just take the first 45 minutes. But if you look at the second half of the game, you're going to have to scroll down because we are 18th. We've, on balance, if you count just the second half, we've drawn 6 games and lost 5 games. And we have conceded 14 games. We have a goal difference of -6, and we have only 6 points. That is, if you consider that second half as its own independent game. So I think, along with Wolves, we are the only team to have not won a single game. Like, Wolves have not won a game, period, in the league. But we haven't won a second half battle, right?
Yeah.
So if you look at the last 5 games, we have 5 goals scored and 7 conceded. We drew 0-0 against Sunderland at home. We drew 1-1 at Liverpool. We drew 2-2 at Brighton, against Brighton, and we lost 2-1 away at Forest and lost 2-1 away at Spurs. So we have
This
three
is in the
points.
second half, guys, just to clarify. This is in the
Yeah,
second
this
half.
is this is the second half of the game. Now, Football isn't played on paper, and similarly, it's like not only played in the second half. A game has many phases. So if we are on 11 points of 5 games and we are unbeaten, we are doing something right. But Andy, the question remains: can you tell us, like, why are we so bad in the second half?
Yeah, I think the thing that stands out the most to me is that the system is still pretty new to the team, right? I feel like our concentration tends to drop off in the second half a little bit. It tends to become more of a basketball match, and I feel like this is the case with most teams because when you're a coach and you're setting up a team to play a certain way, I feel like you see the coach's system coming more into play in the first like 20-25 minutes. After that, it tends to be a reaction to something happening, and then it's a reaction to that reaction, and then a reaction to the events that keep happening because players have to
Hmm.
problem solve on the fly. So maybe every 10-15 minutes, they can reset and keep the ball and think about where their positions need to be. But more or less in the second half, I think the issue is the team isn't organized enough to follow Ruben Amorim's instructions like they are in the first half when they, remember everything they did in training instead of remembering what the opposition did like 5 minutes ago, right? And I feel like most teams do this, right? City under Pep tend to be robotic. Arsenal under Arteta now are more robotic. But if you even think about Klopp teams, they used to be more ebbs and flows. They used to be smash teams on their best day and on their worst day just be inconsistent compared to the likes of City. For me, the biggest factor is definitely Casemiro not being on the pitch, but I also think there's an overutilization of a few players like Brian Mbumo, Bruno Fernandes, and Luke Shaw. And I have this stat here. I did some research off of FBref, and this column right here is what I've added. This is essentially for all of the games that any of our players in our squad have played. What percentage of minutes have they stayed on the pitch that they could have played? Right. So Matthijs de Ligt, for example, he's played 11 games. He's played every single minute of those games. Bruno Fernandes, Mbumo, Luke Shaw, and Amad Diallo. These are our top five in terms of utilization. And the common thread here, Rishi, is that each one of them does not have a replacement off of the bench.
Hmm.
Matthias de Ligt, you could talk about Maguire maybe that comes off the bench, but de Ligt never leaves the pitch. So he's the only person that can play both central center back and right center back. Bruno Fernandes, only person that can play the left 8 role the way that Ruben Amorim wants him to. Brian Mbumo, only person playing that right 10 or occasionally the left 10 spot. Luke Shaw, only person playing the left center back role. Amad Diallo, yes, we have some options at wing back, but he's still one of our most important ones. So this kind of points to the fact that our squad is nowhere near ready to do the things that we want them to do. We have improved a lot at the top of our squad, and this is what you're seeing, right? Even though Bruno Fernandes, Matthijs de Ligt, and Luke Shaw were all here last year, even Amad Diallo was here. Out of the top 5 players, most of these guys are sort of the first names on the team sheet. And we need to find a way in the second half to find somebody that can come on for them and give us a similar level of output, which we are severely lacking right now.
Yeah, that's very interesting, Andy. And even if you look at the goal scorers in the second half, you've got Maguire and Delict, you've got Ahmad and Mbumo. They're all from set pieces, and even Mbumo's goal, like against Brighton, right? It came from a sequence that started from a throw-in.
Yeah, and you have to see the players that are getting us these goals, right? Ahmad and Mbumo, who've had good chemistry and have started the season well, and also from our center back. So it feels like a combination of the system not really being as organized in the second half from the player execution perspective, and also perhaps the top 5 players here just being tired by the time it comes to the second half, right? So it's I feel like we need certain players to start performing for us, and that takes us very nicely to our first big reason that we're concerned about a Champions League spot, and that is Matheus Cunha, right? We have Matheus Cunha right here, who's had 1 goal in 12 appearances. And we've appreciated his physicality, his drive, and his desire to play for United. And, even from the club, people are talking about him being a Cantona esque figure. but he hasn't really performed for us the way we would have wanted him to. He hasn't really grabbed certain games by the scruff of its neck and, pushed us forward. So why do you think that is, Rishi?
Yeah, it's interesting, because let's take a look at Cunha's profile when United were thinking of signing him. Uh, he was at Wolves. The transfer was confirmed well before the summer transfer window even opened. His price was 62 million pounds, and that was the release clause which we agreed to pay over 3 installments. If you look at the prices for other attackers in this market, 60 million for Wissa, 55 million for Elanga, 55 for Kudus. Uh, Spurs even paid 50 million for Brennan Johnson last year, 60 million for Richarlison, and another 60 for Solanke. And then you look at Words, who's gone for 120. And you consider that Cunha's in his prime and he has like enough time left in his prime. He's had two solid double digit seasons for Wolves. He's outperforming his XG big time. And, you'd say that 62 million is a fair price for him.
Yeah, but like I was just talking about, from a United career perspective, it's still 1 goal in 12. There's no assists. Let's not forget he missed that penalty at Grimsby that led to Mbumo having to take a second one that he missed. Um, it feels like the chemistry that Mbumo has with Ahmad, Mbumo has with Bruno, Mbumo has with Sheshko, Cunha doesn't seem to have that same chemistry with several attacking players or several of the forward players. And the most worrying thing for me is I can't even get myself to say this because it sometimes seems like he's turning into a bit of a Rashford where he's trying to dribble into players in a way that there's nothing there, right? Like Rashford used to just try to bundle his way through. And in his season where he got like the 40 goal contributions or whatever, some of those times the things, the die worked in his way or the cards fell his way and he was able to make it through and he was able to score or assist a goal. But Cunha's not that type of player. He's much better than Rashford is. He just feels like he's trying to do things that nobody else can see, and he's taking too long to release the ball, almost like a Paul Pogba would sometimes. Honestly, I am not sure how to feel about Cunha because obviously we're nowhere near ready to give up on him. Um, but I also don't see how things are going to get better because I feel like he's that type of maverick player that just kind of does things. What are your thoughts on this?
I mean, I don't know, Andy. I remember looking at the Spurs game and I was like, there's so many opportunities where you could play Mbumo and Mbumo would basically be in a foot race with the last man. But he just keeps running. He holds on to the ball. He doesn't release it on time and he attracts those extra players and he loses possession. So, like, I don't know why this happens, right? Because I really don't, because my only thing is maybe he still feels like he's at Wolves where he has to do everything on his own. That's my explanation. But what do you think? Like, why is this happening?
I personally think there are a few things that are new to him, even though he might have played at the three at the back. This is a new 3-4-3 system where he has to do a lot of dropping deep to pick up the ball and progress the ball forward. And maybe in a sense, he actually feels like he needs to do too much, a little bit like another Portuguese speaking player that we know in our squad, Mr. Bruno Fernandes. So, just the way that Bruno's been able to learn that he can do less and trust his teammates more, I think Cunha will start to learn that he can do less and trust his teammates more, and he will eventually come good. But I think the main issue is that we're probably over reliant on Mbumo compared to Cunha because Mbumo has 5 goals and an assist, 6 goal contributions in 11 games already. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, and we desperately need someone to step up like Mbumo. We need a consistent goal scorer like him. And I think that just one more player, right, with who has the kind of end product that Mbumo has, I think we'll get Champions League qualification with him. And Cunha, he has the Prem experience and he has the history of being that clutch player. So he has the biggest chance of being that, difference maker. And if he flips that switch and he starts producing, uh, I think we'll finish fifth at least, or we could even make a run for fourth spot, or maybe even third. Who knows? And I hope he does, because if I have to hear the damn Europa League anthem again, I'm gonna break something, man. I can't take it.
Oh, oh, uh,
Oh.
yeah. Honestly, it's not that bad, but the fact is, I hear you. We need that money for sure. And let's not forget,
Yeah.
guys, and we're gonna lose Mbumo and Ahmad for AFCON for 6 games. So if we don't have Mbumo and Cunha keeps playing like he's playing, we're gonna be in big trouble. But let's move on to our next point, which kind of goes back to this graph that we talked about, right? Which is the utilization of the players. And we already talked about Cunha, who, let's be honest, should be playing more than 76% of the minutes that he's available for. I know he missed 1 or 2 games due to injury, but the his utilization should be as high, if not higher, than someone like Mbumo. But right at the top of the list here, we have Matthijs de Ligt. He has become the heartbeat of our backline, which I absolutely love, because we finally got that leader in the middle again, somebody that we can look at and feel comfortable. But I feel like we're leaning on him a little too much. If he has to leave the team even for a short spell, like an injury or something like that, I feel like we're in big, big trouble.
Exactly. He's been Amorim's best player. There's no contest in that. He wins his duels. He steps into midfield, chips in with the big goals, just like the one at Spurs. And he's not just defending, like he's setting the tempo for everyone else. And Casemiro and Bruno, I feel they're pushing up so high up the pitch, and they can only do that because Delict is filling in the spaces behind them.
Yeah, and that's what worries me, right? Realistically, he's a 40 game a season guy, maybe 50 games at a stretch. And before joining United, he only managed about 30 or so. Now he's in a league that's faster, nastier, and much more relentless than Bayern or Ajax or playing for Juventus. He's also throwing himself into every tackle, every sprint, every recovery. He's that player that just wants to get in and, feel the physicality of the game.
Yeah, and like you can see that it's kind of wearing him down. You can make it out a little bit, because he'll make that huge block, and you're holding your breath. You're hoping that nothing pops. Because uh, it is possible that, just like Varane, he could go missing for a few games. Those 2-3 game absences across the year, and that could easily be like, you could have Villa away, or you could have Newcastle at home, and these are the kind of fixtures that you need to win, that decide where you finish, right? That's the distance. Because if you see, between fifth place and like 10th place, there's hardly a couple of points, or maybe even up to 13th place. So one result could mean the difference between European qualification and not even Conference League. You could be eighth, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the scary part, right? Because we have just played a few games where we started the game like we should be winning, like the first half FC thing that we just discussed. And then the second half we finish off like feeling like, we're lucky to get away with a draw. And if De Ligt doesn't put in his performances, I think we're not winning the first halves either, right?
Yeah.
And the drop off is huge between him and someone like, if we had to play Luke Shaw, Maguire, and Euro as a back three, I think that's a big drop off by just having one player missing.
Yeah, Delict is basically duct taping this defense together, and I don't know whether that's like a single layer or like a full roll of tape. I guess we'll find out soon. But Amarim has to protect him. He has to rotate smartly, because one mistimed challenge and like the whole rebuild, right? It could get exposed overnight. We are wafer thin squad as it is.
Yeah, Rishi, and that brings us really nicely into our final talking point, which is that our squad just isn't strong enough to make a push into the Champions League. In fact, can I go as far as to say, in terms of depth, even a Nottingham Forest is probably at a similar area as us in terms of making a push for a European spot. Because let's not forget, they have tons of players to come help them. Their midfield is arguably better than ours, right? Because you would take Elliot Anderson and Douglas Luiz as a starting midfield for United,
Yep.
all things considered. And they have a lot of players at their disposal. Their squad value is about 700 million or so. They're the most expensive team in the Europa League, if I did the math correctly when I did a video on them. So we have the AFCON issue. We could drop more points before those guys leave for AFCON. And we know we're going to drop points when they leave for AFCON because we're playing Villa, we're playing Man City. There are some tough games in there. So the truth is, this is not a Champions League level squad, no matter which way you look at it.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like the first 11 is solid. We could go toe to toe with anyone on the day, but beyond that, it gets bad because you look at a Mount, he's still injury prone. Sesko's on the treatment table now, so you don't know who's going to play in his position. Menu's had a few flashes, but I don't think the manager thinks he's good enough for his system right now. So, like, I don't know. I don't know because Ugarte also hasn't looked settled, right? He's looked like he's a step behind in the big games. Uh, Dorgu's also struggling, and defensively he's okay, but going forward he gives you nothing. So yeah, like with Mazraoui also, I love the guy. He's thorough professional, but he's gonna miss a game or two here and there. So we constantly we need to rotate, but we don't have enough quality to rotate and give the same kind of output.
Yeah, and the situation gets even more dire when you get to the youth players because what are we actually looking at? I know people want to get excited about Shea Lacey, but Rishi's mentioned it before. He is very skinny, and I don't know if he can deal with the physicality of the league. You're looking at Bendito Montato, who probably looks like the most Premier League ready player that we have in the youth team, but even he is a right-footed sort of right back, actually right winger converted to right back. And in my opinion, Amorim really wants two left-footed wingbacks. That would be his preference because that's what he did at Sporting as well. His right wing back was Quenda, and then left side he played either Nuno Santos or Maxi Araujo, and both of them were left-footed players. So in midfield, you're looking at Jim Thwaites or Jack Fletcher or Tyler Fletcher, one of those guys. At center back, you're looking at Tyler Fredrickson, who again played in the Grimsby game, did not look like he was adapting to the system very well. And when you're looking up front, you're looking at Cheeto Obi, who again, we saw glimpses of him in the first team. He has his first team shirt and all that, but other than the fact that he is 6'5", I don't think there's any similarities between him and Sheshko. So those are the problems we're dealing with. And from the rumblings from the club, it doesn't seem like they're too keen to spend money in January either. So there are a lot of issues that we just listed out here, guys, and this is why the squad being paper thin is a big issue.
Exactly, and you can't really challenge for top four with 11 guys in vibes, right? You need 20 players that you can actually rely on, and uh, you're like one pulled hamstring or a suspension away from going into crisis every couple of weeks. And that is the word, it's crisis, because every time someone goes down, it feels like you're having a fire drill. And to be fair, uh, Amarim's done well to hold it together so far, but this squad is still fighting from the trenches. uh, you know they've got better armor now, but it's still the same number of soldiers, right? The system's improved, the mentality's improved, but the depth is like miles off what a Champions League team needs.
Yeah, so I guess that's kind of the next step for Ineos and Wilcox. I mean, it's nice to do the Inside Carrington podcast, and you and I got both excited by the philosophy that they have for improving the team. But it's time to go and fix problems and not just talk about them. Okay, guys, that leads us to our last section. One of the ones that I look forward to each week because we get to talk about one underrated player that we want to discuss. And Rishi, looks like you have pulled up Nico Williams from Nottingham Forest.
Yeah, so I like Nico Williams, Welsh left back playing at Forest. Forest had a cracker game against Leeds this weekend. They won 3-1, and Williams was the man of the match with 8.1 rating. He won 11 duels, which is the highest in the match. He created two chances. He had six tackles, and this was like an all-round performance. Even if his past few matches, if you see, he's been performing pretty consistently, been getting a good rating, and he wasn't too bad against us either. So yeah, ex Liverpool player. I don't hold grudges that long. Uh, Nico Williams is my underrated player of the week.
Yeah, it's a great shout, Rishi. And I don't know about his contract situation, but looks like according to FOPMob, his valuation is $28 million. So in euros, that's what, like 24 something a million euros. Um, so I think a player like this could actually help Liverpool right now. you know,
I
so
was just thinking the same thing.
yeah, because Kirkez and Torquez are, having their own party in the defense, and Nico Williams could be someone who's really good. Actually, Nico Williams gives me a lot of Connor Bradley vibes, but just on the left side. Like a
Yeah,
very similar type of player who's not really explosive going forward. Doesn't remind you of a failed winger playing at fullback, but rather a failed center back playing at fullback. You know what I mean?
yeah,
That's the type of vibe you get from these types of players, and
yeah.
I think Liverpool could really use somebody like him. And I know there's not a big age gap between him and Kirkaz, but 3 years, he's still a Premier League proven fullback, right?
Yeah,
And he could be good for them. I don't know if they have a buyback clause, but it seems like that could be something really useful. Maybe Michael Edwards needs to be watching our podcast, Rishi. So, Rishi, my underrated player of the week is Daniel Ballard at Sunderland. And what a
good shout.
game this guy had. His game against Arsenal was so good that when I was checking this lineup, I was searching for him at the striker spot. Because he scored a cracking goal, and honestly, I'm not going to claim to know much about this guy. He's 26 years old from Northern Ireland, but he seems like a very, very solid player. And if we take a look at his highlights from the Sunderland game, obviously scored that cracking goal. He had a last-ditch block in stoppage time to make sure they got the point. Just a superb all-round game. He had 7 defensive contributions in that game. Obviously, 1 shot, 1 on target, 44 touches, 4 touches in the opposition box. Few of them probably came for that goal. 3 passes into the final third, 1 accurate long ball, and he was also offside once, which is great. And looks like he did fairly well with his aerial duels as well, right? 5 out of 11 is pretty good against the haram ball tactics that Arteta likes to deploy. And let's be honest, these guys are the Cinderella story of the Premier League this season, right?
Absolutely.
And for a team like this, who is consistently underperforming in terms of their underlying stats, to do so well in terms of the results that they're getting across the board is very, very impressive, guys. And listen, we can all sit here and say that, oh, they're overperforming their underlying numbers. This is never going to happen, et cetera, et cetera. We've seen teams do crazy things before. And, this is where you have to take the stats with a pinch of salt and say, this is a team that's trying to play with their hearts, right? They're trying to put their will into the game and trying to just hang on to things that are not possible or don't seem possible. It's not as simple as good players win games, bad players lose games. Sometimes bad players with a collective mentality, working hard off the ball, not having any egos in the team, can make wonderful things happen. And that's why we love this game. That's why we love football. And Sunderland this season are the perfect example of that.
Well said. Yeah.
So, who do you think this guy could go to?
Ballard, I don't. I think he should stay at Sunderland because I think they're going places. And I'm not gonna lie, Andy. See, it's too early in the season to call any of these. But you know how we have the advantage of not playing in Europe. I think Sunderland have the same advantage, right? And on balance, they're doing better than us in the league right now. So who's to say they couldn't really challenge for that fifth place? And currently they're on second. It's not too far a shout to say that they could actually play in Europe. So I think Ballard is a guy who's come up through the championship. I think, if I'm not wrong, was he also in League One with them? I don't know, maybe I'm getting this wrong, but it would be like a dream come true, right, for a player like him to go and play in Europe for the team that he also kind of rose up the leagues with. So yeah, I
Yeah,
think he
yeah.
should
I
stay at.
I think the idea is more like, we're not giving him transfer advice. It's more just which team could he fit into that we think could use a player like him. That's kind of the question. And I personally think, there's a ton of teams that he could work for. Um, but maybe one of the teams that are just outside the big six, right, could use a player like him that's like a no nonsense center back. And since we're taking Nico Williams out of Forest,
Right.
maybe we could put Dan Ballard to someone like a Forest or like an Aston Villa, or
I
even
think Villa's
Everton.
a good shout because they've signed Lindelof on a contract. So I think he's definitely better than Lindelof. So Villa's not a bad shout. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. So what do you guys think? Do you guys have an underrated player of the week that we should be thinking about? We'd love to hear your thoughts. Get in the comments below. I know we've been looking exclusively in the Premier League, but this is the league that we love and we love to watch. If there are other players from other leagues that you want us to keep an eye out for next week's podcast, let us know. Also, Rishi and I want to start something new, which is we're going to do a little 5-minute segment, maybe. We'll decide how long it's going to be, on the best comment that we see in the video below. So, in this video, get down with your best comment and, any topic you want us to discuss. And whatever we find the most interesting, we will dedicate around 5 minutes in next week's Stat Patters podcast to discuss exclusively your comment. So, make sure you get in the comments below. Right, that's it, guys. Thank you guys for watching. This is episode 6 of the Stat Patters podcast. We are a little bit late this week, so we apologize for that, the time difference and all that, right? If we miss one train, guys, we have to wait for the next day to catch the next train. That's kind of how it works with the 10-hour time difference that we have going on. But thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you next time. Mm-hmm.